If you've ever found yourself lost in the lush, intricate soundscapes of 1970 seconds progressive rock, chasing the kind of music that feels like a journey through uncharted emotional and intellectual terrain, then let me introduce you to a band that deserves a prime spot in your collection. ACQUA Fragile. Hailing from Parma, Italy, this quintet carved out a fleeting but luminous niche in the golden age of prog, a genre that dared to dream big, blending ambition with artistry in ways that still resonate today. ACQUA Fragile isn't just another footnote in the sprawling history of progressive rock. They're a band that, despite their brief initial run and limited output, delivered something singular, raw, and deeply human. Their story is one of passion, struggle, and a stubborn refusal to fade into obscurity, and their music is a testament to what happens when raw talent meets unrelenting vision. So, grab a pair of headphones, dim the lights, and let's dive into why ACQUA Fragile is a band you need to know. Picture Italy in the early 1970s, a country buzzing with cultural and political ferment, where the echoes of the 1960s counterculture collided with the rich tradition of classical music, opera, and folk. Progressive rock, or prog, was exploding across Europe, and Italy was no exception. Bands like Premiata, Forneria, Marconi PFM, Banco del Mutuoso Corso, and L'Orme were weaving a distinctly Italian thread into the genre, infusing it with Mediterranean warmth, operatic drama, and a lyrical sensibility that felt both ancient and futuristic. Into this vibrant scene stepped ACQUA Fragile, a band born from the ashes of a group called Gli Immortali, the Immortals, founded in 1971 by a group of young musicians with big dreams and bigger influences. Fronted by the charismatic and polarizing Bernardo Lanzetti, whose voice was often likened to Peter Gabriel's but carried its own gritty edge, ACQUA Fragile was a band that wore its British prog influences on its sleeve while still striving for something uniquely their own. The band's original lineup, Lanzetti on vocals, Gino Campanini on electric guitar, Piero Canavera on drums, Maurizio Mori on keyboards, and Franz Dondi on bass, was a tight unit, each member bringing a distinct flavor to the mix. Dondi, the most seasoned of the group, had cut his teeth in a local outfit called I Moschettieri, which had once opened for the Rolling Stones in Italy. This gave ACQUA Fragile a certain street cred, but it was their raw talent and relentless gigging that caught the attention of PFM, Italy's prog juggernaut. PFM's manager, Franco Mamone, saw something special in these scrappy Parmans and took them under his wing, setting the stage for their debut album in 1973. That album, simply titled ACQUA Fragile, was a bold statement of intent, a record that didn't just mimic the British prog giants, but engaged with them in a conversation that was both reverent and rebellious. What makes ACQUA Fragile the album so compelling is its unapologetic ambition. The band chose to sing entirely in English, a daring move for an Italian group at a time when most of their peers leaned heavily on their native tongue to capture the poetic soul of rock progressivo italiano. This wasn't just a stylistic choice. It was a calculated risk, a bid to break into the international market at a time when PFM was starting to make waves abroad. Lanzetti, who had spent time in the United States, brought a near-native fluency to the lyrics, but the decision to forego Italian sparked debate among fans and critics. Some saw it as a betrayal of the Italian prog ethos, which prized the melodic and emotional resonance of the Italian language. Others, however, recognized it as a bridge to the wider world, a way to sit at the table with Genesis, Yes, and Gentle Giant, the bands that clearly inspired ACQUA Fragile's sound. The album itself is a kaleidoscope of influences, blending the pastoral beauty of early Genesis with the quirky, multi-layered harmonies of Gentle Giant and the soaring melodicism of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Opening with Morning Comes, the record immediately sets a mood of pastoral reverie, its delicate acoustic guitar and shimmering keyboards giving way to Lanzetti's commanding vocals. The song feels like waking up in a dew-soaked meadow, with a sense of wonder tinged with melancholy. Tracks like Comic Strips and Science Fiction Suite showcase the band's ability to shift gears, moving from playful, almost theatrical passages to dense, instrumental workouts that highlight Campanini's fiery guitar work and Maury's nimble keyboard runs. The album's centerpiece, Three Hands Man, is a masterclass in progressive dynamics, weaving together intricate time signatures, lush vocal harmonies, and a narrative thread that feels both mythic and deeply personal. Critics at the time were quick to note the album's debt to British prog. Some praised its technical prowess and cohesive compositions, with one Italian reviewer calling it a fluid, continuous work that captures the peaceful moments of Gentle Giant. Others, however, were less kind, accusing the band of being derivative, a Genesis clone that lacked the originality of their Italian contemporaries. This criticism wasn't entirely unfair. Lanzetti's vocal style, with its nasal intensity and dramatic vibrato, does recall Peter Gabriel in his Trespass era, and the album's structure owes much to the British prog template. But to dismiss ACQUA Fragile as mere imitation is to miss its heart. The band wasn't just copying. They were translating the language of prog into their own dialect, infusing it with a warmth and emotional directness that felt distinctly Italian. Even if the lyrics were in English, the album's reception was mixed, and its failure to break out beyond Italy was a blow. Released on the Numero Uno label, it came with a striking poster cover and translated Italian lyrics, but the lack of an international release limited its reach. Still, the band pressed on, bolstered by their association with PFM and a string of high-profile gigs opening for the likes of Soft Machine, Uriah Heep, and, most notably, Gentle Giant. These performances cemented their reputation as a live act to be reckoned with, their energy and musicianship winning over audiences even as their debut struggled to find a foothold. In 1974, ACQUA Fragile returned with their second album, Mass Media Stars, a record that doubled down on their ambitions, while refining their sound. With a slightly sharper production and a new keyboardist, Joe Vescovi, formerly of The Trip, the album leaned harder into a keyboard-driven sound, shedding some of the folksier elements of their debut for a more polished, muscular approach. Tracks like Cosmic Mind Affair and the title track are standout moments, blending bright, yes-like guitar riffs with intricate arrangements that nod to Genesis and Gentle Giant. The album's release in the United States, a rare feat for an Italian prog band, was a testament to their growing confidence and the faith that PFM's success had instilled in their potential. Yet, Mass Media Stars didn't fare much better commercially. Critics were again divided, with some praising the band's technical growth and others doubling down on the clone accusation. Lanzetti's vocals, in particular, came under fire. His warbling intensity and heavy vibrato were an acquired taste, and his English, while fluent, occasionally felt stilted, as if the lyrics were wrestling with their own translation. The album's standout track, Coffee Song, is a quirky, infectious gem that could have been a hit in a parallel universe, but its oddball charm wasn't enough to break through the crowded prog landscape. By the end of 1974, the band was dealt a devastating blow when Lanzetti left to join PFM, replacing their vocalist for the seminal Chocolate Kings album. ACQUA Fragile tried to soldier on with new singer Roby Facchini, but the magic was gone, and the band dissolved in 1975, leaving behind just 2 albums and a lingering sense of what might have been. For decades, ACQUA Fragile seemed destined to be a footnote, a cult favorite cherished by die-hard prog fans, but overlooked by the broader music world. Their story could have ended, another casualty of the ruthless churn of the music industry. But prog, as a genre, has always been about defying expectations, and ACQUA Fragile's story wasn't over. In 2013, Lanzetti, Dondi, and Canavera reunited, driven by a shared sense of unfinished business. The result was a new Chant 2017, a remarkable comeback album that felt like a time capsule and a bold step forward. Featuring guest musicians like lyricist Pete Sinfield of King Crimson and PFM fame, and Grammy-winning drummer Jonathan Mover, the album captured the spirit of their 1970s work while embracing a modern sensibility. Tracks like The Drowning, and Il Suono della Voce, their first song in Italian, showcased a band that had lost none of its fire. With Lanzetti's voice impossibly sounding as vital as ever, the release of a new chant was a triumph, not just for the band, but for the enduring spirit of progressive rock. It proved that ACQUA Fragile wasn't just a relic of the 1970s, but a living, breathing entity capable of speaking to new generations. Their 2023 album, Moving Fragments, pushed this revival even further, with tracks like Her Shadow's Torture and Ia Intelligenza Artificiale blending vintage prog grandeur with contemporary themes. The album's crisp production and adventurous spirit silenced any doubts about the band's relevance, proving that their passion for music making was as fierce as ever. So, why should you care about ACQUA Fragile? Because they're a reminder of what prog rock was always about: pushing boundaries, taking risks, and creating something that feels alive.